Podcasting since 2005. This is the King of Podcasts Radio Network. KingofPodcasts.com.
WWE is doing Evolution, Saturday Night's Main Event, and then they're going to build in 3 weeks SummerSlam? Are you kidding me?
Woo! Hey, this is the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and believe it or not, whether you like it or don't like it, learn to love it, because you have to listen to Wrestling is Real. It is the best thing going today. Woo!
The worldwide leader of podcasting excellence. The King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents The Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
Welcome to episode 940 of the Wrestling is Real podcast. This is King of Podcasts here with you. Welcome you to another program, another Wednesday night as we go into Thursday. And this weekend is loaded. There's a lot to bring up in the short amount of time that we have. So pardon me if I think it's a little bit petty. When you look at this current schedule coming up this weekend, where WWE is trying to just infiltrate the entire schedule, where anything that is AEW All In, which all they did, listen, it's two different companies in two different strategies. So Saturday Night's Main Event gets pushed into Saturday night, where All In could have been run at that time. Would have been a 7 o'clock bell time for them, 6 o'clock start for probably the 0 hour, and they would have gone through their show. But no, we're not going to get that. Instead, All In moves up to 3 o'clock, since Saturday Night's Main Event is going to come up. So why go up against WWE and the main roster? Don't do it. Smart. Even though Saturday Night's Main Event really isn't going to be too much to go and brag about, except for the fact of Gunther and Goldberg, maybe some other matches we know of, but nothing significant. And then you have NXT Great American Bash, which embedded there is the contract signing between Trick Williams, Joe Henry, and Mike Santana to lead up to Slammiversary next week. So the TNA component we have to talk about as well, because TNA has their plans. They're piggybacking off the fact that they have the NXT partnership, which is supposedly WWE, but it's really just NXT, and just saying, okay, that's going to be our chance to go back up and start competing against both of these companies, I guess. At least that's what Anthem Sports Group thinks that they're going to be doing. And then you got Evolution the following night. And then WWE has to expect they're going to be able to go and do creative and do the booking for these shows, only to have SummerSlam 3 weeks away. Now, yes, Night of Champions, you did set up matches for the respective world titles. Got it. You got 2 world title matches, men's and women's, set up from King and Queen of the Ring. Fine. But then everything else that leads up into SummerSlam. And then also the thought about where TNA and where it's gone in the Slammiversary aspect as well, and leading up to their event. Like, the thing is, for the NXT WWE partnership with TNA Slammiversary is getting completely overshadowed by this ridiculous weekend we have here. And it's not because of AEW. They're just kind of doing their own thing. They don't want to get in anybody's traction. They just want to be able to put their show on, have it as is. They got 22,000 plus, I guess, they're going to be showing up. It's going to be with the retractable roof covering. So they're going to have an indoor show at Globe Life Stadium, or Globe Life Field, rather. And they're set for Arlington, Texas. They're all set to go. They did their Dynamite preview tonight, the go-home show for it. Collision tomorrow night. They're all set. They're in their own lane, not worrying about anybody else. But WWE is under this other mindset in a lot of different ways. Because while there's a two-pronged approach to what WWE is doing right now anyway, they're, number one, trying to monetize as much as they can because they have to go ahead and carry debt that TKO Group Holdings has because of their acquisition of the UFC. And UFC is doing their events, but it's just not holding the traction like WWE is doing right now. Because with WWE, you could do a lot more shows, a lot more events. They're obviously showing, look, they can maximize and monetize right now. That's the approach of the corporate side. So they're not going to really care about what's being done. Again, the corporate side, just make content. Hunter, just make content. We don't care what you're going to do. Just make content. That's it. make sure people will show up at the shows. We're not worried about the Netflix audience now. We got their money. We're not worried about the CW crowd. We got their money. We're not worried about USA Network, NBC Universal, Peacock. No, we got their money. We got their money. They'll be just fine. We'll figure out how to go ahead and, negotiate again. If things go a little bit sour, we'll just come back to negotiate. We'll figure a way out to go and take care of that. Don't worry about that. Just do your work, Hunter. You got it. Here we go. So they did that. But like I said, then there's the approach of the personal animus from several years ago. When Dynamite came on the air, and in that first year, the attempts where Triple H at the helm of NXT was given the directive to take out the competition. The new competition was not allowed to go ahead and try to fester or survive, and it failed. No matter what, AEW got another broadcast deal. They're still here. You don't have to like it. It's just what happens. But people really got personal about that. And this personal grudge that WWE has right now with AEW, it's clear. Why would you go ahead and just put so many shows around it? And honestly, want to counter program? It's because it's the same kind of thought process of, this is like how wrestling used to be. Well, I mean, if you put good shows on, okay, fine. But it's overkill. This weekend is a prime example of that. AEW wants to put on a show. You're not doing anything against Slammiversary. There's nothing booked for Slammiversary weekend except for Slammiversary. And that's it. But when All In decides to go on here, they're like, man, we're just going to throw everything at it. And that's what they want to do. I mean, what are you going to do about it? It's like, this is what their plan is. Their modus operandi. They like to throw NXT in to just put it as competition because, in a way, the grudge is you can't put the main roster up against AEW. They were kind of doing that, but they were going to use Saturday night's main event. It's Saturday night. If AEW is going to do a show on Saturday night, well, then guess what? They can go and ask NBC to take over one of those spots because, well, right now, NBC only has Saturday Night Live reruns to work off of. Because right now, and the thing is, it's not even Saturday Night Live because it's not even on at night. 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock on NBC, they have nothing really to go and put on except reruns. There's nothing for them to go and put. So anything that goes on live that they already have a deal with, it's not going to hurt them at all to go and put something up on NBC on Saturday nights. The ratings are not getting any better. They're not pulling 3 million viewers. They're pulling 2 million. And just that. Maybe a little bit extra when you add Peacock, but that's all they're getting. At your very best. Meanwhile, yeah, SmackDown, 1.4 million viewers. You got 1.1 for July 4th, but that's expected. Netflix gets the worst ratings that they've ever had, I guess, since the inception. That's not helpful either, but nobody's really talking about that. Because the juvenile delusional fandom is giving a pass to all this. And I would almost give the benefit of the doubt to the company if they actually had good content to run on these shows. Because for the most part, it's very tough to go ahead and see that. And what they're kind of giving us right now, overall, I'm not necessarily overly excited about what WWE has right now in general. And there's some news coming out about what's going to be going on with some of these events that are going to be going up on the WWE side. Okay. For Evolution, I already talked about that. For the Battle Royal match, they're going to have this Sunday. Nikki Bella, Stephanie Vaquer, Maxine Dupree, and Natalya. Nia Jax, Ivy Now all have been confirmed. Winner will get a title opportunity at Clash in Paris, Sunday, August 31st. Yeah, 2 pay-per-views within the same time. You're going to have the 2-day show for SummerSlam, August 2nd and 3rd, and then you only get 4 weeks to go and set up for Clash in Paris. But in the setup for Evolution, you got women's tag team title match, Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez. So however it worked out, Roxanne Perez is now part of the tag team title holders, with Liv Morgan being out. And Roxanne Perez, for whatever reason, is now part of Judgment Day. And they'll take on Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, which they kind of just put that team together. Okay. Asuka and Kairi Sane, so Kabuki Warriors batched together again, just in time for Evolution. And so Ruka and Zarya from NXT. Then you got the Becky Lynch title defense against Bayley and Laura Valkyria for the Intercontinental title in a three-way where they had a promo this week on Raw that was like, man, paint dry. I mean, and you could tell, and you could tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure when I saw Laura Valkyria come out and confront Bayley and Becky Lynch, they piped in noise onto that broadcast because those people in the crowd, they were not gesturing as if they were super excited about Laura Valkyria being out there and taking out Becky Lynch and Bayley. No, they're not on their feet. They're on their phones. I saw it. I looked again, and I'm still looking at it. I look at the clip right now. A lot of the clips I go and put on here for the broadcast here, I'm watching on video, so I'm watching it as it happens. You might hear the crowd. That's piped in. That is not that crowd in that arena. No way. Tiffany Stratton will defend against Trish Stratus in a women's championship match. I don't expect that to be anywhere. Io Sky and Rhea Ripley for the women's world title. And the only way you know there's a storyline is if you watched NXT. By the way, the promo, which was well done, by the way, leading up to the match between them. Yeah, long heralded rivalry in NXT. I mean, you look back at the clips, yeah, back in the COVID days, Capitol Wrestling Center, when Rhea Ripley still had blonde hair and not even half the tats she has now. Like, yeah, they've gone over for 7-8 years together. Okay, fine. But you're still telling me that we haven't seen much of them face each other or any kind of storyline between these two on the main roster because there wasn't. All the clips of all their matches, you had to have been watching NXT. And for WWE, they just think you're watching NXT. They're going to assume you watch NXT. Meanwhile, it gets, at that time, probably a third of what the rest of the audience is on television. Your casual fans not watching NXT. We're not. I'm not. There's nobody on NXT right now that I'm absolutely like, okay, I'm waiting to go see. If there is, they're the ones that should have been on the main roster already. Obafemi, Trick Williams, Kalani Jordan, sure. But, I'm not taking myself out of my way to go and watch that. And also, what they've been doing with TNA, I'm not necessarily happy about that either. So, and then if you had Julia or Stephanie Vaquer, they were already there. Roxanne Perez was there, but they're already over here on the main roster, so it doesn't matter. JC Jane defends against Jordan Grace, and they do a set up now with Blake Monroe, now setting with Jordan Grace. They got a whole little buddy-buddy storyline with that. Okay. Then the Battle Royal, a no-holds-barred match with Jade Cargill and Naomi, and that's it. And I was looking back at what the original Evolution pay-per-view was the last time they did it, 2018, Nassau Coliseum. And I go back and look at what that was. All right, let's go into this again. The first time they had it, it was Ronda Rousey versus Nikki Bella for the Raw Women's title. Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, last woman standing for the SmackDown Women's title. That's big. And that was Nikki with Brie at the time. Shayna Baszler, Kairi Sane, NXT Women's title. Toni Storm, Io Shirai in the finals of the Mae Young Classic of 2018. 6-woman tag team match with Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Natalya against Riot Squad. And a battle royal, and look at the names they had in there. Alundra Blaze, right? Former Medusa, Asuka, Billie Kay, Carmella, Dana Brooke, Ember Moon, Ivory, Kelly, Lana, Mandy Rose, Maria Kanellis, Michelle McCool, Molly Holly, Naomi, Peyton Royce, Sonya Deville, Tamina, Tori Wilson, Zelina Vega. And then Trish Stratus and Lita against Mickie James and Alicia Fox. That was quite a pay-per-view. Quite a pay-per-view. And I remember watching that pay-per-view and being really impressed by it. At the same time, I was thinking about the last time we saw anything like this at all was Empower. Like, Evolution, it was a one-time thing in 2018, and then nothing. And then because NWA did their normal pay-per-view thing at the Chase in St. Louis, Mickie James got to go and work on doing a standalone women's pay-per-view. August 28, 2022. And it was really good. And that was partnered with AEW, Impact Wrestling, and AAA. And in that pay-per-view, where they are going into really paying homage to women's wrestling, because with WWE, they're only going to do so much. In the main show, well, Sky Blue actually was on that show, right? Diamante defeating Chick Tormenta and Kylie Ray. The Hex, who were the NWA Women's World Tag Team Champions, they were in the semifinals of a championship tournament. Hex beating Hell on Heels, Renee Michelle, and Sahara 7. Colin King of Red Velvet defeating the Free Babes, Jazzy Yang and Miranda Gordy. And you had Deonna Purrazzo and Melina Perez for the Impact Knockouts title at the time. Hex beating Colin King of Red Velvet, so the Hex became NWA Women's World Tag Team Champions. Camille over Layla Hirsch, and I was with Camille being the longest reigning NWA Women's World Champion. And I think what was the next night, she lost the belt. And I'm saying to myself, that was like an amazing run that she had there. And then Chelsea Green winning the Women's Invitational Cup Gauntlet. But at least with Mickie James, she got to be a part of that pay-per-view and say, okay, here we go. But then with WWE, they never made it a regular thing. So why all of a sudden do they bring this back? Because with the company, they're saying, well, we want another show we can put out there and we can promote. All right. And they did. And they said, okay, we got all these women on the roster. We need to give them something to do. But the truth is, they really didn't plan anything after Night of Champions to really plant a lot of these matches that are coming up at Evolution. Did they? Not really. At least I don't see it right now. I mean, Nikki Bella coming back. She's going to be part of the Battle Royal. They had a promo for that. Io and Rhea, that just kind of started back up 2 weeks ago. The Judgment Day against 3 other teams? Not really. And Trish and Tiffany, they brought that back up last week. With the only stories that are going to be kind of held out a little bit longer is Naomi and Jade Cargill, which has been around for a while. And then Becky, Bayley, and Lyra, where that's kind of just starting back up, where Bayley just got brought into the mix. Here, where they just made sense of, okay, Bayley and Lyra were in that women's tag team tournament for a quick minute, for a cup of coffee, basically. And just enough where Bayley or Lyra Valkyria went ahead and turned, or whatever it was. I forget now. But they all have some business with each other. And I felt like, even though Lyra Valkyria has, history with both of them this year, felt like she's just a person out of place. I really felt like that. You tell me, because when I saw her coming into this, when I saw what was going on with Lyra Valkyria and seeing her as part of this, I was like, wow, there was not much going on with this. But here's the segment. Let's just go and play it back real quick, where Lyra Valkyria is confronting Bayley and Becky Lynch. Here we go.
15 years of failed friendships and grimy hugs. Another one bites the dust, huh? Well, it's good to see you not trying so hard anymore. Because, she really dropped you like a hot potato at WrestleMania.
No. It's time we set the record straight on this. And I have to tell you what I never told you. Everybody thinks that I called Becky and brought her back at WrestleMania. I didn't. Becky secretly attacked you, and then Becky called me.
By the way, that crowd, that was not the piped in crowd. But look at that right there. She reveals this part of the storyline that, I mean, honestly forgot about the whole thing at WrestleMania where Bayley got screwed over by Lyra Valkyria, right? Go back once more time, and let me just make sure I hear the crowd over here. You tell me, listen to how they took the announcement here that Bayley got screwed over. Listen to how that crowd responded once again.
WrestleMania, I didn't. Becky secretly attacked you, and then Becky called me.
But,
wow, no response. Pin drop. Keep going.
There wasn't much hesitation in your voice, was there? But I remember this one thing that you said. You said, Bayley is everything that I am pretending to be, and that Bailey would never betray you the way that I did. Well, how's that working out for you? Because it seems like she's not pretending anymore, is she? Hate to say I told you so.
Shut up, Becky. You can't get in my head anymore, okay?
That's supposed to get a pop. No one wants to boo Becky Lynch. Not going to happen. Lyra Valkyria is delivering these lines, feels like it's scripted, and there's no passion to what she's saying. Nothing here. She looks, and when I look at her here, compared to Bailey and Becky Lynch, she just looks like she's just a rookie out there. I know she's been out there for a long time, but there's nothing here. Nothing. And the crowd is on their hands. And you know what? Because it's the juvenile delusional fandom that's out here at this arena, they're not going to say boring. Because if it was a Vince McMahon run show and they had this segment going right now, that crowd would be going boring, or they'll be saying something else, or what? They'll be whatting these girls or going boring or whatever they want to do. They would take over the show themselves. But this crowd, because they've been trained, they're basically like, we're just going to sit on our hands or knees, and we're just going to sit on our hands, and we're just going to be polite. We're going to be polite. That's it. They're not even going to even try to go ahead and help build this up. But they're not. But they're not going to go and boo Becky or Bailey, and they don't have any kind of opinion at all about Lyra.
But she was right about one thing. How nice of you to finally admit it. You don't care about friendship when it comes to championship gold, right? You know what that makes you? That makes you just like her. And I know what I have to do now. On Sunday at Evolution, I have to rescue that championship from two massive disappointments.
By the way, you could tell that the piped in boos are coming in right there because it just comes non-organic. You can hear it in the audio. And if you are watching the video, I'm watching this from the X feed of bodyslim.net. They put this up here. Also saying this entire segment, damn, fire, fire, fire emoji. Okay, I'm looking at this crowd. I see people on their phones. I see some people watching, but they're all sitting down. No one's saying much of anything. They're just, they're just flipping their thumbs around. That's it. Fiddling.
You know what, Lyra? I sat front row when you were the first ever women's intercontinental champion. When you won that championship for the first time, I sat right there. And when we had that tag tournament to get to WrestleMania, I stood on the apron and I watched the work you put in. I watched you rise to the top. I watched you go to WrestleMania and become a double champion.
By the way, I was expecting some kind of noise like, hey, like if Lyra Valkyria is doing so well, where's like the adulation here? Where's the, hey, like I want the crowd to be going up. That's what's supposed to be happening, right? If this is done here, Bailey's trying to go ahead and boost this girl up, trying to go ahead and pump her up, and no one cares. No one cares. This girl's gotten so much airtime, so much ring time. She's not over. I mean, she's over like, talk about an old reference. She's over like a sack of wet mash. It's like a Foghorn Leghorn reference. Sorry, I couldn't think of anything else right now. Back to Bailey.
And then I watched you lose that Intercontinental Championship, and you raised her hand like a little bitch.
Okay, so that's like the Jerry Springer thing. Oh, look, bitch. Like that's kind of like the initial trigger response, and that's it. And of course, Lyra gets that part, and that's when she starts jumping in. Here we go. And listen to how the reaction is of the crowd as she starts going at it at Bailey and Becky. And you tell me you can't tell that the audience has come in here piped in.
Bitch.
I'm looking at this crowd. You look at the crowd, they are not responding at all. I'm looking right now. I see her throwing Bailey out of the ring. Then she goes out, hits Bailey. But like I said,
went for the manhandle slam, and Lyra with Nightwing to Becky.
Piped in. This crowd is non-responsive.
Bailey again from behind. Scooped up by Valkyria. Nightwing to Bailey as well. Lyra Valkyria.
And by the way, when you look at Lyra Valkyria actually hit both of these women with moves, I'm like, so choreographed. Like, that doesn't even feel like Lyra Valkyria should have been able to do anything like that. And there should be nothing where Lyra Valkyria is able to go ahead and lay both of them flat on the mat. And then the one thing I will give credit to is that she did grab Becky's hand to raise it up as part of the storyline where she lost the IC belt to Becky. That's all there is. And when I'm looking on X as well, somebody actually wrote in here, actually it was the coach. The coach rules on X. And he says, I don't believe a thing Lyra says on the mic. I am begging WWE to start working with some of these talents on delivering promos. It has to go both ways, and Bayley and Becky are light years ahead of Lyra. There are levels on the mic, and if you're going to be on Raw, you have to be at the highest level. True. I just felt nothing here. And trust me, I've tried. Look, I know she was a big deal in NXT UK. She's been around, and, the NXT crowd probably responded better. You're trying to ask this main roster to go ahead and you're asking them to take a stretch here to hope that they're actually going to care about this. They don't. They just don't. Okay. But this is one of the main events, and I don't know which match is going to be main event. I guess it's going to be Io and Rhea, but this is the semi-main event right here. This match for the Intercontinental title, by the way, prop. But they're going to go with this match, and I'm like, am I going to care about this? No, not really at all. But that's it. I'll tell you what, man. So just following also on X, that there were some numbers that were put out there. So July 4th, SmackDown did get 1.166 million viewers. Monday Night Raw on Netflix for Monday, June 30th. What they have is right now that through 7 days, it got 2.5 million global views. And currently, for the first and second quarter of 2025, the U.S. ranking for Netflix for Monday Night Raw Live is third or fourth. That's it. So you're going to tell me that Monday Night Raw, they can't beat something like K-pop Demon Hunters. Is that really where we're going to be at? K-pop Demon Hunters gets a bigger audience than Monday Night Raw. Okay. Make that make sense. Please. Tell me when I'm telling lies. I'm just saying, man. But there you go. That's Evolution for you. It doesn't feel too exciting. I'll watch it. Look, with everything that's going on, I got time. Okay. So, Great American Bash, if there's anything notable to go and talk about that, I'll bring it up. We'll talk about it. But for the most part, I'm like, all right, let's see what they do. So that goes up head to head with All In Texas. So I'm watching All In. That's not even a question there. So there will be a post show for All In Texas. And, we'll bring up what the Saturday Night's Main Event does, what they decide to go and do. Sure. For the Great American Bash coming up, Obafemi will take on Yoshiki Inamura, accompanied by Josh Briggs, for the NXT title. And he's from Pro Wrestling Noah, by the way. I don't know anything about him. I didn't realize that Pro Wrestling Noah was even doing some partnership with WWE. I guess they are. But I can understand that. Who knows if WWE wants to go after Pro Wrestling Noah because they weren't able to go and do anything with AAA or something with New Japan, I guess. Just a tag team match with Jordan Grace and Blake Monroe versus Fatal Influences, JC Chain and Fallon Henley. And then you got Sol Ruka, accompanied by Zarya, versus ZZ Dame with Tatum Paxley. And it's for the NXT Women's North American Championship. Sol Ruka is champion. They set up last night Ethan Page in a Falls Count Anywhere match for the NXT North American Championship, who he's the title holder, against Ricky Saints. So these guys will go at each other again. Javon Evans versus Jasper Troy, and that's it. That's what we got. So they're not caring about, the size and scope of what NXT's Great American Bash is to counter program against AEW All In. They're just wanting to do it just to go and just be out there to do it. That's it. And they're not worried about the size of the scope of the show because it's a center stage. Not a big venue. They can fill that out. I mean, everybody else goes there and does it. NWA can go there. MLW can go there. TNA can go there. Anybody can go and fill out that center stage. That's fine. No big deal for them. But the fact of the matter is they wanted to go and book it at 3 o'clock on Saturday, same time as All In. Because you can do that. So Saturday Night Spin event, it's the 40th Saturday Night Spin event, by the way. And so far, 3 matches are scheduled. Gunther versus Goldberg for the World Heavyweight title. And this is supposed to be Goldberg's retirement match. That's the lead off. LA Knight versus Seth Rollins. Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. So it's not a matter of that they're putting matches that are going to be so surmountable. Like, the thought of Saturday Night Spin event going up against All In, AEW just don't even want to deal with it because they know what's going to happen. But then NXT decided to go with Great American Bash to go counter program against AEW. Just to do it. I mean, there's a complete pettiness to this. And also just a smugness among WWE because of the fact that they'll just use NXT to counter program. They won't use the main roster. And if they do, they'll use Saturday Night's main event. They'd rather do that. Because I don't see where AEW was doing that. Remember, when Saturday Night's main event came around last time, and I'm trying to remember what it was, there's been times where Collision has moved over several times to Thursday nights. They're doing it right now because of Saturday Night's main event. Collision is going to be running tomorrow night because of the fact that, tomorrow night as I'm recording this, they're going to run it on Thursday night to not have to deal with Saturday Night's main event. Respectfully for their own business, it's just not good business to go and be on Saturday nights if that's what's going to happen. And if TNT's going to allow them to be on Thursday nights, good for them. And who knows if it becomes a place they go. And it's not like they're trying to go ahead and counter program against TNA and their go home show for Slammiversary. It's not like they're trying to do that, but I guess it is. I mean, they're going to probably think it is. Doesn't matter. It's not because Slammiversary's go home is next week. Anyway, but that leaves everything else to be explained. But this whole idea of doing this is their plan. This is what they decided to go and do. I just don't like the pettiness here. It's on purpose. And there's been a lot of talk about it on X. We can talk all about that. When Dave Meltzer's been on, he does talk quite a bit about things with AEW. We all know about that. And everybody really bashes him because of that on a regular basis. And a couple days ago, he was responding to comments. He had one comment that said, the AEW embarrassed Triple H's NXT. The vendetta runs deep. Dave Meltzer says that's a big part of the story. Absolutely. And they'll never let it go. I mean, Vince McMahon's strategy to do it, that's, again, always how it was. Even when Dave Meltzer responds back about somebody saying that with a half a year gone, Dave, would you give the failing counter booking of AEW by WWE the early lead for this year's most disgusting promotional tactic award? And Dave Meltzer says, no, it's just a strategy that's been part of wrestling since the beginning of time. It's always been the case. I've explained why this strategy this year is a waste, but obviously they believe differently. Yeah, it's different people running at the top. Triple H does not have the leadership acumen like Vince McMahon, not even close, to do this right. Let's make that clear. Triple H is no Vince McMahon. Just because he is related to him by marriage now doesn't mean he picked up that much. I mean, he might have picked up enough just to be able to go ahead and operate things in a certain flux. But the truth is, he has nothing what Vince McMahon has. And Triple H, if he wants creative to be done, he needs somebody that's going to be handling the creative end for him, not him. Because they're not even trying to go creative. We talked about that. It's the corporate type of creative. There is none. There's absolutely none. A little bit here and there, just some nuances, Easter eggs, that's it. But that's all they're going to try. And Dave Meltzer also goes on to say that the strategy is counterproductive, but they clearly only know one way. They want the monopoly, even though it's more valuable not to have it because it opens the door to huge losses in court. AEW is WWE's saving grace from a UFC-like situation. Seems more personal than business. Another person on X, I'm not going to go by the names, but we're just going to go through this here. TKO and WWE set Evolution 2 to fail this weekend. Now, this is as of July 7th. They were struggling to sell tickets, sitting around 5,000 as of, I think it was Sunday or Monday, I forget. Oh, no, it was Monday. Pay-per-view was going to be scheduled for Saturday. Originally July 5th at Mohegan Sun Arena, which seats 10,000. If they stuck with the plan, they could have sold out, done great business, and built the strong card. But they got greedy. They wanted to undercut All in Texas. So they oversaturate with Saturday Night's main event, Great American Bash, and Evolution 2. A lot to ask of fans. I mean, you're talking about, what, 8 hours at least of pay-per-view time you want to watch this weekend. That's as much as you're going to get for SummerSlam coming up in 3 weeks. It's just too much. One of these events was bound to take a hit, and unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be Evolution 2. And what this writer says that if the show underperforms, the billionaires and suits will blame the women when the fault lies squarely with WWE and TKO for moving the show from its original date. Women will deliver, they always do. Least company could have done was given the right platform to succeed. And you know what? You could have hoped they could have been doing something more with it. There was a lot more you could have done with Evolution. No doubt about it. Because the roster is being squandered. The opportunities that these stars could have are being squandered. Of course they're going to perform. No doubt about it. But the truth is, they're not getting to work with anything really special. I mean, a lot of these women are going to get time on the card. They'll have the Battle Royal. They'll have a lot of different spots open for this pay-per-view for them. But that's it. But is this going to really advance or move the needle at all? No. It'll be, a competent pay-per-view. No doubt about it. I don't know if they're going to have anything extra that's going to really make it stand out. But after all that wrestling they're going to have over the weekend, to come out of Great American Bash, All in Texas, and Saturday Night's main event, and they're going to come back next day for that. I mean, come on, man. That's a lot of pay-per-view. A lot of wrestling. And it's more WWE than anything else. And if there's anything up against WWE right now, it's AEW putting on one of the best shows possible this year. One of their biggest shows of the year, arguably. Now, there's been a lot of talk going up back and forth leading up to All In and also leading up to the setup for TNA Slammiversary next week. Carlos Silva, the Anthem Sports Group president, talking to Ariel Helwani. We're going to play a couple of clips from him coming up in a moment. But here's where Dave Meltzer went and did the full perspective on Wrestling Observer Radio about the backfiring of this counter-programming effort.
I mean, the one thing, which is actually the big thing for the whole weekend is, even though they'll probably sell out the Saturday night main event, it will end up being sold out. It's about 1,500, 2,000 shy, and they'll get that in the last week. But the women's show is at 4,800. So it will not. I think that the lesson of this weekend is that WWE, in their quest to, run so many shows to make sure that AEW isn't a success, I think they basically messed up bad because it looks to me like there's very little interest in the NXT Great American Bash. I mean, if they're not selling out center stage, that's not really that good. And then the women's show would have done, the women's show would have sold out Mohegan Sun easily. I think running 3 shows in the same market was overkill. I mean, the one thing
I agree. And that's the other thing too, is that you would have wished the Evolution pay-per-view would have had their own spot. So Mohegan Sun Arena, July 4th weekend, we could have used that. That would have been a nice little change up to have Evolution then. I think it would have got a little more flair. I mean, at least for the women, you could have had a better case to say, hey, you're going to sell it well. But yeah, due to the pettiness right now of WWE, because I don't think TKO Group Holdings is worried too much about this. I mean, it's part of the fact that TKO Group Holdings should have held the event because they were going to make more money on the gate if they would have kept it as it was at Mohegan Sun Arena. And they said, no, we're going to make a whole weekend in Atlanta about it. And, made a mistake. They made a mistake. 3 different WWE-related shows? I mean, who's got the money to go and do that, let alone on WrestleMania weekend, to go to multiple WWE events? Like, who's doing that? Who's got the money for it? Now, of these shows they're going to have, yes, Goldberg main eventing Saturday night's main event in Atlanta, that's a no-brainer. Hometown, people all remember 1998 when he beat Hollywood Hogan in the Georgia Dome to win the World Heavyweight title. Simultaneously, we already have the United States Championship, right? And remember that day. Like, remember, 40,000 plus on a Nitro to do that. And it was big. So for Saturday night's event, to go and take care of Atlanta, yeah, no problem. State Farm Arena, they got it. Sell out, no problem. Now, among the people that were talking leading up to AEW All In, MJF is a stalwart. Let me tell you something. I've already said forever, even before he comes into AEW, because I'm sure there were a lot of people that did not see MJF on the map before joining AEW. I did. Remember, I just saw it all again, where Hammerstone and MJF reunite on MLW television, right? And I'm saying, okay, MJF now doing some work over there at MLW, but the thing is, that's where he comes from. That's where I remember seeing him. It was great. But let me tell you, MJF, man, across the board, the fact that he's not always there to go after the title, like he is their Ric Flair. He is the locker room leader if he's not already. He should be, because the young kid, he gets it, man. Not even a young kid. He's in the prime of his career right now. And he could be like that for a long time. So that Tony Khan made a decision to go and keep him on board, he's a draw. And I must say, every time I see him on Dynamite or Collision, you got to pay attention to him. Even this here right now with Mark Briscoe and MJF, their back and forth has been good. And it's just like all across the board, man. MJF is just up there. Now, other thing too is that he always does his particular interviews, of course, in character. He was asked about the roster standard in AEW and how Tony Khan's been picking the new signings recently. As we know, look who he's brought on board and what he's done with them when it comes to Will Ospreay, Mercedes Moné, Kazuchika Okada. He's been using them. I don't know how much you like the way he's been using them, but he's definitely been using them. They've been integrated very much into the part. He says, quote, Tony Khan's learned that you want people in your locker room that not only want to be there, but are worthy of being there. We've had a lot of guys in the past come and think that they're going to be king shit just because they had their time in the sun for a millisecond in other promotions. That's not how it fucking works. It's called all elite wrestling, not all average wrestling, not all mediocre wrestling, not all I'm going to show up, cash a check, and expect to be world champion wrestling. It's all elite wrestling. Now, and everyone in that locker room right now is on the same page. We aren't coming there to cash a check. We aren't coming in to give 50%. We're all giving 110%. If you think you're going to come into my company and barely put in work, you're out of your GD mind. You don't belong here. We don't want you here, so stay where you are and be miserable over there because you don't belong swimming in the ocean of sharks that is AEW. You can't ask for a better ambassador than him, man. Obviously, loves what he's doing right now. More MJF when he talked to Ringer. Quote, everybody in Wrestling on X and on Instagram and on your Reddits, they're all feelings people. I don't do feelings, I do facts and stats right. So here's a stat for you. And this is him defending the Hurt Syndicate as he should. The Hurt Syndicate has been the most consistent minute-for-minute ratings draw in the company for a while now. And that is because the 4 of us are megastores. Now, outside of that, bringing up MJF versus Mystico, here's another fun fact. That was the highest rated quarter hour in the history of our company since a little wrestling match you might have seen, which was me and Will Ospreay. So for 6 years now, consecutively, I've been the best, most consistent ratings draw that AEW has to offer. Bam. He's asked about the counter-programming that WWE is doing right now. Here's what he says, quote, "You mean shows that are running at the exact same time as us, even though they claim we're not competition? How do I feel about it? I think it's a smart business practice. I give jolly old Saint Nick," means Nick Khan, "and Trips a whole lot of credit. At the end of the day, if you can stomp out your competition, you're doing what is necessary. Lord knows I would." That's pretty honest there. I believe when he says that. He goes on to say everyone is judging them for it. I think that's silly. Don't judge them for it, but don't also be stupid. They're not doing this by happenstance. This isn't circumstantial. None of it is. Great answer. And I'm not disagreeing with the counter-programming strategy either. But the counter-programming strategy they have is weak. It wasn't fleshed out well. It wasn't done well. And you might be hurting your business as a result of this pettiness. It's a little too much. I don't know what Tony Khan did to you to piss in your cornflakes to make you feel like you have to go and do that route, but it's a bit much. It just is. Tony Khan spoke, of course, leading up to this. He spoke with TMZ. He says he believes in listening to fans. Oh, we talked about this already. That's right. It was 2 weeks ago. Never mind. I don't think there was anything else he did talk about leading up to it. So that leaves room for me now to go ahead and talk about TNA. So Slammiversary is coming up next weekend. It's on Sunday on the 20th, next Sunday night. And so far, your current match card at the very top, the main event, which of course there will be a contract signing at Great American Bash for NXT to lead up to it. Trick Williams will defend the TNA World Heavyweight title against Joe Henry and Mike Santana. Now, I mean, compared to previous years that we have Slammiversary, this is not Bound for Glory, of course. You know, this is one of the bigger pay-per-views, but still. And I can even go and try to compare it to last year's, just to give you a big difference of how much of a change there's been in the lineup of this card. Now, one thing we will say is that, look, they do have a pretty good venue we're going to be at, UBS Arena in Elmont, New York. And it's sold out. They got a set. 7 matches on the card for that. Let's go back into last year's Slammiversary. That night they did 8 matches on the card specifically. And you'll see the difference right now overall. In the World Heavyweight title match that they had at Slammiversary, Nick Nemeth won the World Heavyweight title over Moose, Josh Alexander, Steve Macklin, Frankie Kazarian, and Joe Henry. And remember, there was none of this NXT partnership yet. Completely removed. Because remember, it was there, went away, came back. And I honestly thought everything was just fine with what they did with the matches they had with it. I mean, Mike Santana had a match with Jake something at Slammiversary last year. It wasn't that big of a deal here, but they kind of set him up now to be more towards the world title picture now in this match with Trick Williams. Let's compare a little bit more. This time around, it's Nick and Ryan Nemeth holding the tag team titles. Last year's Slammiversary, you had ABC take on the Systems, Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards. So Ace Austin, Chris Bay. Unfortunately, with no Chris Bay on the card, it's still unfortunate and tragic for him. But yeah, ABC taking on the System for the TNA World Tag Team titles. This time around, you have the Hardys that are back, the Rascals that are also back together, and First Class is AJ Francis and Casey Navarro. So that's a pretty good match right there. It's a ladder match, by the way, for the 4-way in this World Tag Team title match. The X Division title, a bit different as well. Last year, you had Mike Bailey defeat Mustafa Ali in a 20-minute match. That was the match prior to the main event. This year, X Division title, who knows if it's the curtain jerker or what they're going to do. But Mustafa Ali is just in a match with Cedric Alexander. That's it. Nowhere in the X Division title picture. That's it. It's Moose and Leon Slater for your X Division title. Moose, X Division champion. All right. But that's where they're at with it. Big change to that. Tessa Blanchard, Indy Hartwell. I mean, Indy Hartwell is now in here as an independent role, but still interesting that from the NXT standpoint and being from the main roster of WWE before being released, she's now working in here with Tessa Blanchard and being part of TNA. I don't know if it's a permanent basis or not, but still interesting. Last year's Summerversary, Knockouts Tag Team titles, Ash by Elegance. Oh, excuse me. Ash by Elegance was going up against Jordynne Grace for the Knockouts World title. And the Knockouts Tag Team title match was Alicia Edwards and Masha Slamovich against Spitfires, Dani Luna, and Jody Threat. And for the Knockouts Tag Team titles now, Ash by Elegance and Heather by Elegance, Elegance Brand are Tag Team champions. And they got the Inspiration coming back. Former Iconics. A lot of that WWE kind of feel to it with some of these former stars all embedded into the entire show, which is what TNA's been kind of relying on. Like, they're obviously working on that partnership, and then some of the like-minded, memorable, recognizable WWE or NXT figures being part of this TNA roster. But when you look at who we have here and who is being pushed in here into the TNA roster right now, big difference here. And we still don't know what's going to happen with JC Jr. and Jordynne Grace because they're going to be facing each other for the NXT Women's title at Great American Bash. And the winner goes on next week to take on Masha Slamovich in a title versus title match for the TNA Knockouts World Championship and NXT Women's Championship. So both titles being combined. Think about that. Or I guess it's a swap, but it's one or the other. We'll have both belts. Knockouts World title last year, we said was Jordynne Grace. But there we go. So Jordynne Grace still going after the same belt. And who knows? She could probably win that match, be NXT Women's Champion, and then become Knockouts Champion again, which they could very well do. But I think about the stars that they had in here before and what they're doing with them. I mean, there's, of course, some names that have left, so no more of that. Last year, you also had Kushida and Rich Swann that were a part of things, but not now. And, when I look at who they have, well, actually, the Summerversary last year, they did have NXT's No Quarter Catch crew. Forgot about that. Did have them in a 6-man tag team match. Forgot about that. But still, Summerversary now, it's a shorter card, which is kind of like what Triple H likes, or Shawn Michaels for that matter, I guess, if he's running the show over there. Keeping a smaller card, because we all don't know about any of their pre-show matches beforehand. But like I said, TNA stars, I mean, you could definitely see things happen where you could have an NXT star become Knockouts World Champion on Sunday next week. You could definitely see Trick Williams retain the TNA World Heavyweight title next week. And you could also see either the Hardys or the Nemesis or Rascals that have all had some kind of part into either NXT. Well, you mean Dolph Ziggler was in there for NXT for a quick minute. But think about it. Only First Class is the only ones that were not in any way got really close. Well, AJ Francis as well was in WWE. So, there's a lot of stars that can be a part of this as well. So, the title holders could all be somewhere attached to WWE in some way, shape, or form, except for the X Division title. That's it. But I guess for the foreseeable future, this is what TNA is going to become. They're going to have this embedding of NXT stars or some of these other WWE stars that could also be coming in from the woodwork, recognizable figures that were let go. And TNA is just going to go into that route of being just that secondary holding for the WWE stars that were cast off by the main roster or by NXT. And I guess that's enough for Carlos Silva to say, hey, we're going to make some big changes. Because now they want to go live every week. They want to be able to go ahead and be actively a bigger platform, go live 52 weeks a year, and that they're having an announcement on a new TV partner, another broadcast deal coming up 60 to 90 days. So getting off of Access TV. This is all great news for next year. And that's the part that is promising. So TNA in the partnership it's a double-edged sword. Because number one, yes, this goes along with their plans, like whatever their roster, whatever their booking is going to be coming up now, going through Bound for Glory, going into next year. What their deal is going to be is that TNA wanted to go and make the move into doing more live shows. That was even Scott D'Amore's plan before he got let go. So now Anthem Sports Group wants to go with this route. Okay. But what's going to happen next? This is not the TNA that we had that Scott D'Amore was coming into, going into Hard Kill, when the Impact Wrestling name switched to TNA, a year and a half ago. It's not the same company, not the same roster. Instead, we have this hodgepodge right now where there's not a lot of TNA originals that are going to be looked at right now. It's just kind of this company that's going to be put together. It's losing its identity. I mean, it definitely is. And out of Slammiversary, we could definitely see where you're not going to have TNA stars in the title picture. NXT stars will be. For what? As we said, so Trick Williams and Jordan Grace feasibly could be champions in NXT. Why aren't they on the main roster? Both of them should have been on the main roster by now. Jordan Grace or Blake Monroe, for that matter, they didn't have to go and be here in NXT, but they chose it. So it's not a move up, it's a move sideways. As I said this about Trick Williams a while back. So Jordan Grace might get the same kind of treatment. She could be Knockouts champion again. She already was plenty of times, multiple times. And then she's going to be NXT Women's Champion? That's not much of a step up. And you don't want her to go and work on the Evolution pay-per-view, I guess, unless she's in the Battle Royal. I don't know. But that's their plan. So let's go and listen to TNA President Carlos Silva about what could be going on for the future plans of TNA in 2026, speaking on the Ariel Helwani show.
Along with our partners at Access and Len and Andy Schoen, who runs Access TV, we want to find a bigger platform.
Okay, so are you actively?
TNA.
I know you have CAA representing.
We got CAA helping us. We're actively in the middle.
Okay.
If I could get a few things done, I'd love to tell you about
Are you close?
those deals. And
so when he says CAA is representing them, this was before. I mean, listen, TNA did not get this representation. You know who got him that representation? Nick Khan. Because Nick Khan worked at CAA. And because of this connection, Nick Khan is not going to go and do the negotiating for him, but he's going to find one of his underlings or one of his associates that worked with a CAA to set up the deal. So this is one of the deals that actually the partnership really does benefit TNA. Because on the business side, no matter what they do, the plan is to basically get this platform, to get TNA back to the level it was when Dixie Carter had it, when Panda Energy had it, where they had Spike TV. If TNA got themselves back to the spot where they can get back on like a Spike TV type cable channel or one of these streaming services that's significant for them, that'd be huge. They've been able to make some deals with themselves, like, oh, we got a little YouTube thing going on here. We got TNA Plus, 21,000 subscribers. That's great. But they want to be able to make more. And, Access TV is just a holding pattern for them because Anthem owns the company, owns the network. So they're able to go and do whatever they want on that channel. They can rerun it when they do, which is fine. But it's not going to get that many eyeballs on it. And then on top of that, not a lot of people go ahead and go out of their way to go find that channel because they might not have it on their cable channel or it's not something you can find on streaming. Because Access is not streaming at all. But imagine if CAA was going to be able to take TNA and in the same way they did with WWE or with NXT, NXT got a CW deal. Never saw that coming, but they did. And TNA could find themselves with a similar deal somewhere else. I mean, they don't have to worry about Destination America or Pop TV. They don't have to go to some secondary ancillary channel. They can find themselves on something pretty big. Cable could use some live sports. So if they can get the deal and get a broadcast deal that's similar to what WWE got for CW, maybe not $100 million a year, but like something towards like, 50, 60, 70 million, to where they can get the production costs covered for them to do live shows and then do events on a regular basis and put out live weekly television. I mean, for wrestling fans, I'm sure they're going to love it. But it's not going to be TNA. Not the TNA that Scott D'Amore had sitting up in the January 2025 or 2024. No, it's not the same. Because there were a lot of names that got let go. And, I don't know if that's going to mean anything for the contracts because they're not going to worry about the contracts. For Anthem, it's like this deal is, we got this partnership with NXT, so we got some spots that can be filled that we're not paying contract for. So, at the end of the day, yeah, there are certain stars that are going to be brought into that partnership. They're not paying for their contracts. So I understand that part. Like, business-wise, this all makes sense. But for TNA, they have to hope the partnership with NXT and with WWE stays around and sustainable for them. Because they'll need that. They'll have to rely on that when that broadcast deal comes into play. They need it. Absolutely. So we have to figure out what's going to happen for them. But again, the fact that he said CAA is representing them, that's Nick Khan setting it up. And the whole TKO Group Holdings family supporting their partner in the same space. And let me tell you, once we get to AAA, which has already been trying to get themselves with the American deal, I bet my bottom dollar that CAA is also representing AAA as well. Going to work with Dorian Roldan and that team, but also because WWE bought them. They acquired them. With TNA, it's not this. It's just like, okay, here's another place for our stars to go and be featured here, and they can be part of this promotion and do some things where they get a little more traction, a little more seasoning out there, and we don't have to go put them on the main roster yet because they don't have a plan for them. They don't have anything set up for them. Anything in a mindset that going to bring up Trick Williams or Jordan Grace or anybody else toward the front. They don't know. More from Carlos Silva.
Yeah, we're close. I mean, we've been working on it. We've been working on it since the beginning of the year, really since I joined, and it really has accelerated over the last 60 days. And so we're working through it. But yeah, I'm excited.
How close do you think you are to announcing?
I think we could be in a 60 or 90 day window to get something done. I mean,
amazing.
It's as you know, the media landscape is changing every single day.
Yeah.
And literally week to week, things are changing. I mean, we just saw some other networks that are going to get sold again, this week that are changing hands. So you never.
Right. There's also spin-off of a lot of cable networks that are going to be spin off into their own companies with different announcements that might be done for them. But here's the thing. So the 60 to 90 day window, that's right up to Bound for Glory. And when Bound for Glory comes up, they're going to want to make the announcement then or prior to it to lead up to the momentum going towards that. And also it's that time of year where in the fall, to set things up for the next year, yeah, you're going to start seeing negotiations of what the cable networks can do. I mean, I don't know if the broadcast networks going to do anything like that, but I mean, you can't rule out. I mean, think about it. Like, okay, there's nothing backing this, but like, think about it like this. Ion Television has been more than happy to go ahead and take on the WNBA and cover their events on Friday nights as part of a primetime package. They now have the NWSL, National Women's Soccer League. So they're putting live content up there. Who's to say that Ion Television might not be able to go and get a deal together to get TNA on their programming? And it would be a good place for them to go. Streaming, live television, 90% coverage of television stations around the country. Yeah, that might work for them. So that's the thing. They're going to set up some plan to get that done. And before Bound for Glory, yeah, the private broadcast deal. And when they do, we'll talk about it. But like I said, my weariness is going to be that this is on a partnership that WWE has right now. They have backed out before. And they can always do that again if this deal does not serve them. But TNA, unfortunately, with this partnership, they have to go and figure out to make sure how to sustain this relationship, because that is what is helping them find the chance to go and be a part of another broadcast partner outside of Access so they can get back onto another channel again and go back to where they were 7-8 years ago before they lost Spike. If they can do it. And this is the other part that was also interesting, where Carlos Silva is trying to go in to talk about the state of wrestling and where TNA has been and where they can be in the hierarchy of professional wrestling.
And I'm happy that you brought the WWE relationship up, because I would agree. I mean, the spotlight that they put on TNA, mentioning the TNA brand, the title, having one of their guys become TNA champion, Trick Williams, is huge for the company. I asked Matt Hardy about the relationship, and, I appreciated his candor. I said, why do you think this is happening? And he said, quite frankly, it's because they want to try to, put down AEW. And so it's to their benefit, WWE's benefit, to be in business with you. Do you agree with his assessment? And it's benefiting you, but do you agree with why this is happening?
Look, I think that, and this kind of goes back to even the early days when we were in MMA. There's a major league of wrestling, and we know who the players are. Obviously, WWE with NXT are the NFL of the space. AEW has done a great job over the last 6-8 years building up. They've gotten a great distribution deal, but TNA is part of the major leagues too. And so, look, we've been in partnership with AEW well before I showed up as well, and now we're partners with WWE. If they really want to do it against AEW, not really how I see it. I just think that we've built such a great partnership together that I think they see the value in not only building up stars like a Joe Hendry that came up through TNA, but also letting the Hardys and Nick and others, find another place to continue to celebrate their greatness.
Okay. So there's a few things we're going to take out of that. TNA was in the major leagues. Before AEW, yes, TNA was. After WCW, TNA was the alternative. And they lost that spot with AEW. And then again, let's be clear, AEW did work with TNA at one point, and they did the same thing already with Kenny Omega being TNA World Heavyweight Champion. And it was set up that way. Okay, fine. But again, it was like during COVID, in a very rough time, and it was really great that AEW was there to kind of work as they did, and it was fun. But, it was with Scott D'Amore. And now Scott D'Amore deals with Maple Leaf Wrestling, and the AEW stars will go over there as they go to other shows. But now, with the way he's positioning NXT and what they've been doing for TNA, NXT and WWE, they don't really care about Joe Hendry. There's like a nice little gimmick about it, but honestly, it's not like they're going to pick up Joe Hendry, pick up his contract, and go ahead and sign him over. Like, think about it like this. Joe Hendry might have been on television, might have had that match with Joe Hendry, with Randy Orton against Joe Hendry at WrestleMania. But I'm sorry, at WrestleMania, you want to talk about like the chance to see the belt on television and see Joe Hendry out there, but he was out there in a 4-minute squash, glorified squash match at WrestleMania of all places. I'm sorry, you're not going to make me believe that this was like something that was really beneficial to the company. No, it wasn't. I mean, it's nice to go and spin it that way, Carlos. I appreciate it, but I'm not going to buy it. And he can't say the quiet part out loud, which is the fact that, hey, look, the CAA part, which he did mention, like, we need WWE star power, and we need them to have the relationship with us, because with TNA, we don't have the money to spend contracts, but we'll have wrestlers that will work with us that are former WWE stalwarts that were working there that got released or whatever happened, like all the older stars, like with Dolph Ziggler or with the Hardys, with a chance they might get the work back at the company once again. So in this particular NXT TNA quagmire, they're at least attached to WWE in some way, shape, or form. And just the promise that got a chance to go and stay connected to the company that they worked with and made them stars in the first place, they'll work in TNA no matter what, because, oh, look, they're getting the exposure on NXT and TNA. Like, that's the exposure, it's the opportunities, it's the visibility. So the value of the visibility on being those brands where TNA is attached works out for those stars that are not getting paid in TNA. Does that make sense right quick? So that's the benefit of the partnership. TNA still doesn't have the money for the contracts, or nor are they going to go and put out the budget for it, which they would have to do. And they need a broadcast partner and for them to be able to go and go live. Now, Scott D'Amore, I'm sure he was going to try to find a TV deal, but also like he was trying to build shows so that they can make more money going out there and start working their way up to going live, which they've been doing now once again, where it's the show after the pay-per-view. They'll do another show live at that particular arena, and then they'll build up for 4 weeks of doing shows like that. But I'm telling you, like, TNA is going to be reliant upon this partnership for the foreseeable future. If they're able to go and get to this, get past the finish line, get the broadcast deal, then, you know, if something happens in that partnership where it gets severed, or it gets phased out, who knows? But for TNA, at least they'll have gotten what they wanted from it. What they really wanted from it. Because there's no building up of stars here in TNA. Not as a result of this. There are no new stars coming into place to make much of a difference. Casey Navarro and Leon Slater, not so much. But that's what they're going to do. That's their choice. Very well. So like I said, we will do a post show for All In Texas coming up this weekend on Saturday night. And of course, by that point, I will have also watched Saturday night's main event. So we'll talk about both of those shows and see everything pans out of that. So look forward to that coming up this weekend. And yeah, most likely I'll do a post show for Evolution and see how that goes this weekend. And of course, then next week we will do a post show for Slammiversary. We'll get into that. That's how it's going to work. And kingofpodcasts.com, just follow along with it and make sure you follow along for any of the content coming up. But we'll do post shows coming up. Come back for another Wrestling is Real podcast because wrestling needs us.